Did you know adults 60 plus lose more than $60 billion each year to financial exploitation? Greenlight's new Family Shield plan empowers you to monitor your accounts for suspicious activity, protect yourself with up to $1 million in identity theft coverage, and reassure loved ones that you're safe with location sharing and place alerts. Get peace of mind today at greenlight.com/protect. That's greenlight.com/protect.
With a detailed agent directory you won't find anywhere else, Homes.com is the only place to find the in-depth info home shoppers want. Very in-depth info. Looking for a listing agent's contact info? We've got it. The agent with the most sales in your price range? Easy. Specialized agents with all the up-to-date info on your dream neighborhood? We'll know them. A Pisces who enjoys long walks on the beach? You've got other sites for that. Homes.com. We've done your homework.
You're listening to DNA ID, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including The Murder in My Family, Missing Persons, Scene of the Crime, Zodiac Speaking,
Beyond Bizarre True Crime, Campus Killings,
and
Killer Communications.
All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
It was 1985. At 7:34 a.m., bright and early on the morning of Thursday, November 21st, multiple 911 calls came in to the Douglas County, Colorado Sheriff's Office. The callers were all residents of the upscale Lone Tree subdivision in Littleton. Various callers breathlessly reported gunshots, a struggle, a running man, a fallen neighbor. Help could not get there fast enough. Deputies sped to the neighborhood, arriving within minutes. Neighbors had gathered in the street and driveway of 8266 Big Horn Court. A woman in a bathrobe was crying and bent over a bleeding man lying in the cul-de-sac at the base of the driveway of the home. A neighbor comforting her heard her say, "Will it never end?" Douglas County Sheriff's Captain Michael Acree was the first to reach the fallen man, removing a blanket that someone had put over him and checking him for a pulse. There was none. The dead man had visible bullet holes to his chest and abdomen, and his right wrist had a white rope tied around it, the rope snaking on the street. The crying woman said she was DJ and she was the man's wife. His name was Roger Dean. EMTs from Castlewood Fire Protection screeched up to the scene and found Roger lying in the gutter in front of 8266 Bighorn Court. They cut his pants and belt off him and opened his shirt so they could quickly commence resuscitative efforts. Then they placed Roger into their ambulance and sped him to Swedish Medical Center in Englewood. But it was all in vain. At the hospital, Dr. Stephen Creer pronounced Roger DOA. Meanwhile, Douglas County investigator Dale Rowe arrived at the scene at 8:08 a.m. and met with Captain Acree. The house had not yet been cleared. They had no idea whether anyone was inside, including a possible shooter. The two men conducted a room-by-room search and, finding the house empty, cleared it. Detectives and crime scene personnel from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office descended on the scene. This was a big deal. A shooting in an upscale, safe, family-oriented community just 20 miles from Denver. DJ, the victim's wife, was gasping about a man with a gun being tied up and threats. Neighbors exclaimed that they had seen a man, two men, a struggle, a careening getaway car. This all while people were going about their weekday routines. Children were waiting at a school bus stop just a block away. Douglas County Sheriff Steve Zotos himself spent hours at the scene, conferring with Sheriff's Captain Mike Acree and other deputies and overseeing the crime scene processing. let's talk about what the Douglas County authorities found when they arrived at the Dean's home. Detective Kim Castellano parked and went up to the house. She noted some clothing and other items lying on the ground in the driveway gutter. These were a pair of men's brown pants, a belt, and a pair of brown loafers. All items removed from Roger's person by the focused EMTs trying to save his life. There were also 2 blankets and a white robe. On the sidewalk between the driveway and front door were numerous drops of blood and a black pen. As she approached the house, Detective Castellano noted shell casings near the entryway. Entering the residence, she saw blood on the exterior of the open front door. There was blood on the inside of the door, too. Blood stained the interior curtain hanging over the glass portion of the door, and there was an evident bullet hole in the wooden part of the door. A doormat inside the foyer had drops of blood on it, as did the floor inside the door. Neighbors' statements that Roger had been scuffling and shot by the door seemed to be accurate. Turning toward the stairway leading to the second floor, Detective Castellano saw a crucial piece of evidence. A brown ski mask lay on the floor at the bottom of the stairs, near the entrance to the living room to the right of the foyer. Moving up the stairs, the detective noted splintered, chipped wood on the banister that was recognizable as a bullet ricochet mark. At the top of the stairs, a man's wallet lay on the floor of the hallway. Credit cards and paper were scattered about it. A button and a dime also lay on the floor. Approaching a bedroom on the left, Detective Castellano saw a desk and a desk chair. The chair had been moved out from the desk where it usually sat, as evidenced by the impressions on the carpet. A pair of wire-rimmed eyeglasses lay on the carpet next to the chair. They had a piece of silver duct tape across both lenses and stuck on one of the earpieces. There was another white button on the floor near the desk. An ornate piece of white carved wood lying on the floor was evidently the top of the bedpost. A brown jacket, which proved to be Roger's, appeared to have been thrown onto a bookshelf, the corner of which was broken. In the master bedroom, the bed was made but mussed. Jewelry was heaped atop 2 nightstands as if someone had gathered the items but not yet bagged them. The TV was on. The bathtub still had some moisture and a washcloth in it. And a black vinyl backpack lay on the floor 5 feet from the bed. Inside the backpack was a trove of evidence that, no doubt, Roger's shooter was kicking himself for leaving behind. Detective Castellano itemized the contents of the backpack: silver duct tape, white nylon rope, a knife, ace bandages, cash, and 2 gold rings. The jewelry proved to belong to the Deans. The cash had been removed from Roger's wallet. Roger's wife, Doris, who was 50 years old and went by DJ, was interviewed briefly at a neighbor's house by Douglas County Sheriff's Investigator Dale Rowe and Undersheriff Don Christensen. DJ was described as in shock and very emotional. She was quickly removed to St. Luke's Hospital in Denver, where she stayed overnight on Thursday for observation. I imagine that was preferable to her than sleeping in her home, which had just morphed from peaceful suburban Mecca to the site of the violent and terrifying murder of her husband. DJ never spent another night in the house. On Friday, she was released, and she stayed with her daughter at her apartment, where she was interviewed at length by Dale Rowe and 18th Judicial District Attorney's Office investigator Larry Atkinson. DJ said Thursday morning started out just like any other weekday, with the exception that Roger, who usually left for work before 5:30 a.m., stayed home late that morning because he had a late event the night before. She woke up at 6:45 a.m. and she heard the garage door go up and then down, and knew that meant Roger had left for work in his car. She went into the bathroom and drew a bath. She got in and lay there enjoying soaking in the hot, sudsy water. The morning news was on the bedroom TV. The bathroom door was open, so DJ could hear the low voices of the anchors. She was surprised to hear Roger calling from the bedroom, "DJ, come out of the bathroom." She yelled, "I'm in the tub." She sat up and peered into the bedroom, where she could just see Roger sitting on the bed, looking toward the TV. "DJ," Roger said, "I need to show you something." DJ was a lot more accommodating than I think most of us would be. She stepped out of the bath and put her robe and a towel on, and then she walked into the bedroom. Roger was not alone. A man in a dark ski mask stood silently near the bureau, where she could not have seen him from the bathroom. DJ froze, her eyes going straight to the handgun in the man's hand, pointed at her husband. DJ didn't know anything about guns, but she knew this one was a handgun with a long barrel. Roger sat still on the bed. The man told DJ harshly not to look at him. She quickly glanced away. All she could tell was that he was of average height, maybe 5'9" to 5'10", of slim build, and he was wearing dark clothes. She later said she thought the masked man was white, but she couldn't be sure. As ordered, she kept her eyes on the floor. The masked man then handed Roger a roll of duct tape and a rope and said, "Tape her eyes and tie up her hands." Roger got up and took the tape. He pulled the end and then tried to tear off a piece, but had to use his teeth to rip it. He put the tape over DJ's eyes as instructed. She could see only a little bit of light from the bottom of the tape. Then the man ordered Roger to tape her hands behind her back. Roger said to the man, "You're not going to hurt us?" And the man responded, "Not if you do what I want." So Roger taped DJ's wrists together behind her back. Then the masked man told her to lie on the bed on her stomach. She knew where the bed was and lowered herself onto it. Then someone, she wasn't sure who, but she thought it was the suspect, tied her hands with the rope tightly so she could not break free. Then the two men left the room. DJ lay there, her heart pounding. She could hear Roger and the man speaking in low tones. It sounded like they were in their adult daughter Tammy's room down the hall, and it sounded as though they were looking for something. After what she guessed was 15 minutes, she heard someone re-enter the bedroom. She heard the man in the mask ask her, "How much money is in your savings account?" He then touched her shoulder and said, "You doing all right? You had time to collect yourself? How much money in your account?" DJ said they had about $30,000 in their checking account. She also said, "My purse is on the bar next to the stairs. It's got credit cards, about $110 in cash, and our bank account passport in it." She could hear the suspect rifling through her jewelry on the dresser. Then he seemed to hear something and abruptly left the room, and she was again alone. In Tammy's bedroom, she heard Roger say, "It's too tight." The man's voice said harshly, "This is no fucking picnic." Then she heard what sounded like a scuffle and shouting. DJ heard her husband yell, "You son of a bitch," and the man yelled, "Stop or I'll shoot you." 2 gunshots followed. Roger yelled, "I'll give you the goddamn $30,000. Someone screamed and more gunshots rang out. Roger was screaming from outside the house, the front door standing open. I don't know how DJ summoned the bravery to do this, but she got up and stumbled down the stairs, her hands still tied, the duct tape over her eyes now dangling from her face. DJ ran outside to Roger, bleeding in the roadway, and started screaming for help. DJ's story, of course, had to be verified by the investigators, but a lot of the physical evidence at the scene supported what she was saying. The master bedroom TV was on. A maroon towel was on the bed. The tub was wet. A ski mask had been found in the foyer, and duct tape and rope just like those that bound DJ were found in the backpack on the bedroom floor that DJ said was not hers or Roger's. Neighbors who came running saw DJ with her hands tied and the duct tape dangling from her face. There was a nick in the stairway banister from a bullet. And finally, there was no evidence of a gun in the house. Based on the physical evidence, it seemed DJ just might be telling the truth. You guys, it's September. Where I live, September is the best summer month. And you know what no one wants in summer? Getting burned by your wireless bill. While we parents are all celebrating back to school and our newfound freedom to enjoy beaching, boating, and barbecuing, adult style, no one wants to be held back by a massive wireless bill. That's why I made the switch to Mint Mobile. I am someone whose phone is an extension of my body, and I rely on it to work to its maximum potential. With Mint Mobile, you can get the coverage and speed you're used to, but for way less money. And for a limited time, Mint Mobile is offering 3 months of unlimited premium wireless service for $15 a month. So even if you're paying through the nose for back-to-school supplies or college tuition, you won't be paying an overinflated wireless bill with Mint Mobile. And there's no catch. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number, along with all your existing contacts. When I made the switch from one of the big 3 providers to Mint Mobile, I couldn't believe what I'd been missing. The same seamless wireless service for a fraction of the price. I switched to Mint Mobile, and you should too. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/DNAID. That's mintmobile.com/DNAID. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Running a business online? Look legit and own your own brand with professional tools from GoDaddy. Instantly build trust with your customers and boost your credibility with an email that matches your domain, so people know you mean business. There's never been a better time. Just go to GoDaddy.com/GD now and choose from a wide variety of popular domains to find one that's right for you. Pair that with a professional email that works for all your business needs, from daily communications to email marketing and everything in between. That's a little price for a lot of credibility. For a limited time, get a domain and matching professional email for just 99 cents a month for 1 year. Go to GoDaddy.com/GD now and look legit with GoDaddy. That's GoDaddy.com/GD now. Again, GoDaddy.com/GD now. There's never been a better time to choose the domain and email that's right for you. New customer purchases only. Products auto-renew separately. See terms on site. GoDaddy.com/GD now.
An autopsy was performed on Roger almost immediately at 10:40 a.m. at Andrews Mortuary by Dr. Ben Galloway of the Douglas County Coroner's Office. The coroner, Gary Younger, observed. X-rays were taken that showed the presence of 5 bullets lodged inside Roger's chest cavity. When he was opened up, the pathologist observed that the bullets had lacerated his liver, both lungs, his small intestine, his colon, and his left kidney. The intact bullets were removed and retained. They appeared to be from a .38 or .357 caliber handgun. The bullets were referred to as semi-wad cutter lead bullets, a lower quality flat-nosed bullet often used in target practice. Unsurprisingly, Roger's cause of death was exsanguination secondary to multiple internal injuries resulting from gunshot wounds. The 5 gunshot wounds in his abdomen were from front to back, meaning that he was facing his assailant when he was shot. Fingernail scrapings were collected from Roger's left and right hands. Roger's clothing, a pair of brown pants, loafers, a belt, and a shirt with evident bullet holes, was also retained. Detective Younger and Dr. Galloway analyzed the clothing and detected 5 bullet entrance holes in the front of the shirt and only 1 exit hole at the back of the shirt. There was also an entry hole on the right cuff of the shirt. Someone had shot Roger up pretty good. So who was Roger? Roger Marlin Dean was born in Sioux Falls, South Dakota on February 28, 1934, to parents Glenn Preston Dean and Clara Johnson Dean. He had one brother named Daryl. Roger graduated from South Dakota State College and married Doris DJ Atkins on July 31, 1959. Roger and DJ were the part owners of the Sinsel Dean Brokerage Company, a Denver area food brokerage firm. DJ had worked for Shell Oil when they were married and worked part-time for her husband's food brokerage business after their marriage. But when they had their children, Troy and then Tammy, DJ stayed home with the kids. Roger's business was very successful and the family lived well, but not ostentatiously. Roger was very well respected in the food brokerage business. His employees had nothing but good things to say about him, and he was regarded as hardworking and upstanding, as well as kind. He was a creature of habit, the kind of guy who had a regular Thursday racquetball game. He was also a loyal Broncos fan. The Deans had a lot of friends and were considered a happy couple, but a major tragedy had recently marred their lives and DJ never really recovered. Their 22-year-old son Troy was killed in a train versus car accident after his vehicle was struck on the tracks in South Denver just 2.5 years earlier on January 5, 1983. DJ went into a depressive state after her son's death, and her marriage with Roger suffered. Tammy, age 23, no longer lived at home, but lived and worked in Denver. Investigators from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office and the DA's office joined forces to conduct a thorough neighborhood canvass. But before that, a female child residing at 8267 Sweetwater Drive, directly across the street from the Deans, was interviewed on the scene by investigator Dale Rowe. Her name was Carly, and Rowe's report describes the child as crying, shaking, and upset. The 9-year-old was in her room that morning and was startled by gunshots coming from the direction of the Dean's home. She looked out of the window of her room and saw a black man shoot Roger in the entryway of his house. Her line of sight was somewhat obscured by a large ornate fountain that was in the front yard, but she was sure of what she saw. Then 2 or 3 more gunshots, and the black man put something in his pocket and started dragging Roger toward the street. She could hear someone screaming for help. The black man dropped Roger in the street and ran across the snow to a car that was parked at the corner of Sweetwater Drive and Bighorn Court. The man jumped into the vehicle and peeled out, heading out of the neighborhood. Carly also saw Mrs. Dean standing over Roger with what appeared to the child to be a sleeping mask over her eyes. Asked to describe very carefully the man she saw, Carly said the man she saw attacking Roger was black, clean-shaven, about 20 years old, of medium build, tall, about 6'1". He was wearing dark clothing, a black jacket and jeans. The car he drove off in was cream or bronze with no hubcaps. Carly's mother, Audrey, was one of the persons who had called the police. She told Detective Rowe that her daughter called her from upstairs and told her someone was screaming for help outside. Audrey ran to the front door and heard "help, help" from the cul-de-sac. She could see DJ on the street and Roger lying in the street at the foot of the driveway. At that moment, a bronze-colored car drove east on Sweetwater. Audrey ran over to DJ, who said, "Roger's been shot." Audrey ran into her house and called the police. Neighbor Leslie Myers' call to the Douglas County Dispatch Center came in at 7:34 a.m. She said she was awakened around 7:20 a.m. by what sounded like gunshots and someone screaming "help." She looked out the window and saw her neighbor Roger Dean falling to his knees in the street in the area of 8262 Bighorn Court. Then his wife DJ came running out of her house in her maroon robe with something around her head and eyes. Leslie also saw a man running away from the scene. She wasn't sure what race he was, but he was about 5'10", slender, wearing a black coat and jeans. He got into an older model 4-door bronze vehicle, possibly a Chrysler. All in all, about 10 different neighbors had seen or heard something that morning, and their statements were all over the place. A white man attacked Roger. A black man attacked Roger. A man attacked Roger, but it was unclear what he looked like. There were 2 men. One was white, one was black. There were 2 men, but one was wearing a dark mask. DJ believed the gunman was white based on his voice and diction, but she could not actually see his skin, so she wasn't certain. It was a confusing mess. The Douglas County News Press reported, quote, Deputy Chief Robert Krause of the Sheriff's Office said, "When you first get on a scene, it's confusing. Right now, we're going with 2 suspects and that may change, as did the make of the car," end quote. As he indicated, descriptions of the car were equally divergent. Contemporary reporting in the Douglas County News Press quoted Captain Mike Acree saying, quote, "We have 3 or 4 descriptions of the vehicle, different colors, makes, and models. The person was running from the scene, and we didn't get a real good description or composite." Chief Zotto said deputies were looking for 2 suspects in a mid-sized 1968 to 72 Pontiac or Oldsmobile sedan. Then the car was described by different witnesses as a cream, bronze, or pale yellow Chrysler, Dodge, or Plymouth 4-door sedan with missing rear hubcaps. What came out of all of this was a bolo for 2 suspects, 1 white and 1 possibly black. The description of the car was too uncertain to include in the bulletins. Neighbors of the Deans were shaken by the slaying. The upscale Lone Tree development was typically a quiet, peaceful, and safe haven for upper-middle-class families. According to the Douglas County News Press, the sheriff's office said there was very little crime in the neighborhood, not even burglaries. There certainly had not been a murder there in the 4-year lifespan of the development. Quote, "It makes me very uncomfortable. I probably won't sleep very well for a while," said Pat Kale, who lives with her husband and 3 boys down the street from the Deans. "It's a very quiet neighborhood. That's one of the reasons we picked this neighborhood," Lana Ladow told the news press. "It scares you to have something like this happen." Ian Stockman, a friend of the Deans who lives 3 houses from the murder scene, said, "It makes you think. This used to be a neighborhood where you weren't afraid to leave your doors unlocked. Now, we can't do that." Over the next 3 days, CSIs from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, or CBI, processed the scene, meticulously looking for anything that could help them understand the events in the Dean household that Thursday morning. All in all, 77 items for both inside and outside the home were collected. The wallet, the ski mask, credit cards, and jewelry that the offender had piled on the end tables in the master bedroom. Several blankets that neighbors had brought over to cover DJ and Roger. Roger's brown Sansabelt pants and loafers. The rope, the belt, the buttons, the eyeglasses, the black pen, the backpack and its contents. Roger's briefcase and a lockbox containing his will and birth certificate. samples of all the bloodstains on the sidewalk, on the door, and in the house, and the actual front door and banister. All of these items were photographed and measured in place prior to removal, and then they were collected, cataloged, and preserved by Detective Castellano and evidence tech Judy Steepleton. Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department investigator Dick Hopkins examined the crime scene for blood spatter and tried to figure out bullet trajectories and corresponding locations of the involved parties. Deputies shoveled the sidewalk around where Roger's body had lain and sifted through the shovelfuls in case any physical evidence was buried in the fluffy white powder. All the shell casings were collected. BCI agents Howard Gillespie and Wayne Bryant casted, photographed, and cataloged a set of footprints in the fresh snow that, based on measurements, appeared to have been made by a man running away from the Dean's home across the yard of 8267 Bighorn toward where the neighbors had seen a parked car that morning. Speaking of the parked car, the Douglas County News Press reported of the suspects, quote, "The two men had parked their car on Sweetwater Avenue, one home away from the Dean's house, which fronts the Bighorn Court cul-de-sac. It was believed the pair fled the scene in a cream-colored four-door sedan that had no hubcaps on the back wheels. Skid marks were visible on Sweetwater Avenue from the getaway," end quote. The getaway car had been parked very close to the Dean's house, right on the cul-de-sac. It was not subtle, and would have stuck out like a sore thumb to the suburbanites in the neighborhood. Adding to the theory that there were two suspects, footprints in the snow near the passenger side door could have pointed to the shooter having a getaway driver and jumping into the passenger seat as the car sped from the scene. Inside the house, crime scene experts tried to reenact exactly what had happened. DJ wasn't able to shed any light on how the masked gunman, or men, had gotten into the house. Roger was up and dressed. She was in the bathtub, and the next thing she knew, a man in a mask was holding her husband at gunpoint in their bedroom. The doors leading into the home were carefully inspected for pry marks, evidence of tampering, picked locks, and so on. But no evidence of a break-in was found. Had Roger opened the door to someone? It seemed unlikely at that early hour. But some witness statements helped investigators form a theory of how the man or men got into the house. At least one neighbor saw Roger that morning standing in his garage. The automated garage door opened, and Roger was seen standing in the garage with a cup of coffee. Crime scene investigators found a cup with coffee still in it. Very oddly, it had been set down upright inside a trash bag-lined but otherwise empty trash bin in the garage. With it was the rolled-up daily newspaper that the investigators theorized Roger had picked up in the driveway. The coffee mug had only the prints of DJ and Roger on it. Police theorized that Roger had opened the garage door, coffee in hand, picked up the newspaper, and gone back inside the garage. Someone or someones had entered the garage and confronted Roger there. Under duress, he set the coffee and paper down, somewhat illogically in the trash bin, and they went inside the house. I have to state here that the modern investigators are not certain whether the Dean's garage door was open or closed when first responders arrived. Contemporary photos show it in both positions, and the reports don't document which one was accurate. DJ said when she got up, she heard the motorized garage door open and then close, and she assumed Roger had left for work, while in actuality it seems possible the suspect closed it, as he coerced Roger into the house. We just don't know. But as they processed the crime scene, investigators started to question the information gathered from witnesses that two men were responsible for Roger's murder. DJ saw only one man with Roger and heard only two voices, one being Roger's. One type of bullet was found, although that didn't mean too much. One set of footprints was on the lawn, and they matched the set of footprints on the driveway walking toward the house. Sheriff George Zotos commented, "There is no physical evidence of a second intruder." The narrative soon morphed into the suspect being a solo white male. Another witness who had seen the running suspect had insisted that he was white. DJ guessed that he was white. In fact, the only person who was certain that the killer was black was 9-year-old Curly. Investigators conducted an experiment where they positioned a white deputy outside the Dean house against the white snow, and another deputy looked out Carly's window from across the street. The deputy juxtaposed against the snow appeared to have dark skin. They decided Carly was mistaken about the race of the man she observed. From that point on, as far as the police were concerned, there was a sole intruder and he was white.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Meaningful Beauty, the famed skincare brand created by iconic supermodel Cindy Crawford. It's her secret to absolutely gorgeous skin. Meaningful Beauty makes powerful and effective skincare simple, and it's loved by millions of women. It's formulated for all ages and all skin tones and types, and it's designed to work as a complete skincare system, leaving your skin feeling soft, smooth, and nourished. I recommend starting with Cindy's full regimen, which contains all 5 of her best-selling products, including the amazing youth-activating melon serum. This next-generation serum has the power of melon leaf stem cell technology. It's melon leaf stem cells encapsulated for freshness and released onto the skin to support a visible reduction in the appearance of wrinkles. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews, why not give it a try? Subscribe today and you can get the amazing Meaningful Beauty system for just $49.95. That includes our introductory 5-piece system, free gifts, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. All of that available at meaningfulbeauty.com.
With a detailed agent directory you won't find anywhere else, Homes.com is the only place to find the in-depth info home shoppers want. Very in-depth info. Looking for a listing agent's contact info? We've got it. The agent with the most sales in your price range? Easy. Specialized agents with all the up-to-date info on your dream neighborhood? We'll know them. A Pisces who enjoys long walks on the beach? You've got other sites for that.
Homes.com. We've done your homework.
Running a business online? Look legit and own your own brand with professional tools from GoDaddy. Instantly build trust with your customers and boost your credibility with an email that matches your domain, so people know you mean business. There's never been a better time. Just go to GoDaddy.com/GD now and choose from a wide variety of popular domains to find one that's right for you. Pair that with a professional email that works for all your business needs, from daily communications to email marketing and everything in between. That's a little price for a lot of credibility. For a limited time, get a domain and matching professional email for just 99 cents a month for 1 year. Go to GoDaddy.com/GD now and look legit with GoDaddy. That's GoDaddy.com/GD now. Again, GoDaddy.com/GD now. There's never been a better time to choose the domain and email that's right for you. New customer purchases only. Products auto-renew separately. See terms on site. GoDaddy.com/GD now.
Several items of evidence were sent to the CBI lab for testing. All the blood samples were subjected to blood typing and all shared the same blood type as Roger. But the ski mask proved to be of particular interest. Laboratory agent Peter Mang found a Caucasian head hair on the mask. It was light brown and did not match Roger's hair color. There were also 2 tiny facial hairs on the mask, possibly eyebrow or eyelash hairs. Finally, there was a hair on the mask that was canine in origin. DJ could not specifically recall whether the killer was wearing gloves, but no usable prints were recovered from the backpack or other items of evidence. Arapahoe County investigator Dick Hopkins analyzed the bullet hole evidence. He informed investigator Dale Rowe that it appeared that the suspect shot at least twice from the home's stairway, once from the top and once from the middle. In the middle of the stairway, there was a nick in the right banister rail, and at the bottom of the steps directly in front of the door, they recovered a semi-wad cutter lead bullet, just like the ones recovered from Roger's body at autopsy. Despite the lack of fingerprints, the physical evidence in the home and DJ's story helped the investigators establish a theoretical timeline. The gunman entered the garage where Roger was standing and pulled out a gun. He ordered Roger into the house. He asked, "Who else is here?" Roger said, "My wife, DJ." "Where is she?" "Upstairs in the bath." Up they went. The gunman didn't want a confrontation in the bathroom, which would scare the crap out of DJ and cause screaming and chaos. Instead, he stayed out of sight in the bedroom and told Roger to get DJ to come out of the bathroom. When she did, he had Roger blindfold and immobilize her, and he tied her up even further and then made Roger take him to check out the valuables. The police were not initially certain whether anything had actually been stolen. The forgotten backpack contained some items of theft, but other valuables lay around in plain sight. It was also interesting that the gunman had come back to the bedroom alone to ask DJ the balance of their bank account. Presumably, he wanted to know whether Roger was telling him the truth about how much was in there. Police came to believe the gunman was planning on forcing Roger to go to the bank to make a withdrawal under duress. So where was Roger when the gunman was talking to DJ and rifling her jewelry? The rope found around his wrist, the broken bedpost, and the duct-taped glasses in Tammy's bedroom were clues that Roger had been tied up there. Then, the theory was that Roger had managed to free himself, perhaps by breaking off the bedpost. He made a break for the stairs. The nick in the staircase railing and the blood on the foyer rug and on the inside of the door showed that Roger had first been shot in the arm inside the home, presumably as he was running down the stairs and toward the front door. The investigators pondered why the confrontation had turned violent there. The ski mask on the ground, and they yelled, "You son of a bitch," and "Stop or I'll shoot you." 2 shots, and a last, "I'll give you the goddamn $30,000, all overheard by DJ, seemed to point to some kind of physical altercation in which Roger ripped the ski mask off the intruder's head and got shot. The tussle continued in the open door entryway. Remember that a witness saw that, and Roger got shot again. He was able to make it down the driveway before collapsing in the gutter. No one seemed to think that the murder of Roger was the goal of the confrontation. Investigators universally seemed to suspect a robbery gone bad in which Roger had been killed in a moment of panic by the offender. And they didn't think the crime was random. Sheriff Zotos told the Douglas County News Press that they were leaning toward the Deans being targeted. Quote, "It seems like the suspect may have waited some time about a block away, maybe for Mr. Dean to open the garage door. I think that house was the target of this perpetrator. Basically, he watched the house for quite a while. There are many other houses in that area that if it was a professional burglar or robber, they would have hit one a little more secluded than that," end quote. If Zotos' theory was correct and Roger was a specific target for a robbery, someone knew that he had money. Investigators turned again to DJ to delve deeper into her and Roger's personal lives. In a follow-up interview with her, investigators learned that she and Roger did not keep guns in the house. She said that her husband didn't really drink other than socially, and he didn't gamble. DJ handled the finances for the family, which included paying for 5 cars that were leased either in their name or the company's name, and the $150,000 mortgage on their home through Chase Manhattan Bank. DJ said there were no money issues. But she also told Investigator Rowe that the couple had been getting hang-up calls for about 6 months, and she had a theory who those calls were from. Investigators were intrigued. The Dean murder investigation was never going to wrap up in a few days or a week. It was too complicated. There were too many possibilities for what had happened. Detectives had to peruse the company books, financial records, and the Dean family banking and real estate holding records. They had to review company employee records to see if any disgruntled employees had a beef with Roger. They had to look at people who might have been in talks to buy the business, which Roger was actively trying to sell. They had to look at people who knew Roger's morning routine. The police investigation quickly turned to suspects known to Roger, or at least people he had dealt with before. Because in looking into Roger and DJ's life, the investigators uncovered some pretty big piles of dirty laundry. The couple's secrets were exposed through interviews with over 100 close friends, colleagues, business associates, employees, and neighbors. DJ had understandably not been well in the aftermath of her son Troy's death in 1983. Her parents had also been killed in a car accident before she met Roger, so the death of her son under similar circumstances was too much for her to handle. She required psychiatric care and was brittle and at times a danger to herself. DJ and Roger had separated for several months in April of 1985, and during this time and possibly even before the separation, Roger had an affair with a woman who worked at his company named Linda F. DJ found out about this and had apparently not handled the news well. Just a couple of months before his murder, Roger decided to end the relationship with Linda and moved back into the house, and DJ thought the relationship was over. The DA's office investigator Drew Grant and Douglas County Sheriff's investigator Dale Rowe met with this woman Linda at her Denver apartment. Also present was her son Robert O., who would become a prime suspect, as we'll hear. Linda told the investigators that indeed, her relationship with Roger was far from over. In fact, Linda believed Roger was going to leave DJ for her. She told investigators that Roger's plan was to sell his business and retire to Arizona with Linda. Linda told the investigators that she had been hired at Roger's company, Sinsel Dean, as a secretary, but she worked her way up to a sales rep position, which she held from August 1982 to July 1985. She said she left the company because she and Roger became involved. The plan was that Roger was going to divorce DJ and marry Linda. But in early July, Linda alleged, DJ found out about the relationship and things got ugly. Roger and DJ got into a massive fight in which dishes were broken and threats made. Linda quit her job at Sinseldine and went to work elsewhere. And Roger went back to DJ. According to Linda, whose statements we have to take with an entire dispenser of salt, Roger returned to his marital home to smooth things over with his wife, whose threats to self-harm he took seriously. But Linda and Roger rekindled things on August 23rd, unbeknownst to DJ. They continued their affair using code names like Jonathan and Nadine in office phone calls, and seeing each other only at Linda's apartment. Roger had told Linda that he was in the process of selling his company to 5 people from California. On Wednesday, November 20th, the day before he died, he went to a meeting with the potential buyers, and then he brought some steaks over to Linda's apartment around 5:30. He stayed until 8:45 or 9. DJ thought he was at a late meeting. When Roger left to go home, Linda said, "He said something a little odd about, 'I'm going to take care of business, and if something happens to me, I love you.'" Linda was under the impression that Roger planned to tell DJ about the continuing relationship when he got home that night. Roger was supposed to call Linda on Thursday morning around 7 a.m. He didn't, and she began to get worried. Around 11:30, she received a telephone call from her friend at her new company, Grace, who told her that Roger had been killed. She went to his office and sat at his desk and cried, and then gathered some photos of them that Roger had, and her son Robert O. picked her up and took her home. Okay, so do we only have Linda's word about the continuation of her affair with Roger? Unfortunately, no. Police interviewed DJ's best friend, Judy. She said Roger had decided to give his marriage another go, and in the summer of 1985, he and DJ seemed happy. But in mid-November, Roger asked Judy to lunch to discuss DJ's anticipated reaction if he told DJ that he was going to leave her for good. They agreed that she might do something drastic. It's pretty clear that Roger was in a quandary about what to do, balancing things between his mistress and his marriage. Roger's brother Daryl also knew about the affair. Roger had told him about it and said he felt bad about hurting DJ, but Daryl shouldn't be surprised if someday he called him from Arizona and he had no money but had left DJ for Linda. Daryl was under the impression that his brother was prepared to start a new life with Linda. He described his brother as a very kind-hearted person who was under a lot of pressure because he didn't want to hurt DJ, but he wanted out of his marriage. The investigators interviewed Dr. Donald Helseth, minister of the Eastside Christian Church, who had been the dean's pastor, confidant, and counselor throughout the tragedy of Troy's death in 1983. Helseth said Roger was well-liked, but that DJ had been depressed since Troy's passing. The pastor told the investigators that in the summer of 1985, the dean's marriage was in trouble. Around that time, he talked with Linda F., who told him that she and Roger planned to get married, and she wanted him to perform the services. So as you can hear, Roger was not careful with his affair with Linda. Family, friends, and the couple's pastor knew about it, and everyone in the office knew about it. Apparently, Linda called the office very often, and all the receptionists there would tell him, "Mr. Dean, Linda F. is on the phone," even when she used the name Nadine. Very recently, the company had purchased 4 tickets to fly to California for business meetings for Roger, his partners Harold and Leroy, and DJ, supposedly. But Linda told the detectives that she was actually supposed to accompany Roger to California, and DJ, indeed, knew nothing about this trip, which was scheduled for December 6th. Roger had booked an extra room for Linda. On November 23rd, investigator Rowe learned that Linda had been taken to the hospital for a deliberate drug overdose. She was treated and released. In a subsequent interview, Linda told Rowe that she was upset because Roger's daughter, Tammy, had called her and requested that she not attend Roger's funeral. Nevertheless, she told Tammy that she would be going. That evening, Linda received a call from DJ, who told her that if she showed up, she would create a scene. Linda had been depressed because her plans to end up with Roger were ruined by his murder. On the 25th, investigator Larry Atkinson of the district attorney's office, Detective Kim Castellano, and investigator Rowe attended Roger's funeral. They collected a list of license plate numbers of everyone in attendance. Linda did not attend. She said later that she liked Tammy, she was a cool chick, and she didn't go because she respected Tammy's wishes. Okay, so this is all a lot of soapy drama, but what does it have to do with Roger's death? Well, this as the world turns situation gave rise to some strong investigative theories and several viable suspects. In short, Roger's mistress Linda started to point the finger at DJ and accuse her of the murder of her husband to anyone who would listen. When Drew Grant, the investigator for the DA's office, interviewed people at Roger's work, a woman named Virginia E. told him that Linda told her, "That bitch killed him," referring to Roger's wife, DJ. She also told Virginia that Roger had told her, "If something happens to me, I'll always love you." That made it sound as though Roger knew something bad might happen and that DJ might be behind it, getting revenge for Roger's infidelity and disloyalty. Linda also told the woman who did her nails that she felt DJ had killed Roger, and she claimed that DJ owned a gun. And Linda told the investigators over and over again that they should be looking at DJ. Well, and to be honest, there were grounds for the investigators to look at DJ. First of all, of course, the spouse is always an early suspect in a homicide such as this one. Secondly, investigators learned during all their due diligence that two people stood to gain from Roger's demise, DJ and Tammy. Roger had a life insurance policy through his company in the amount of $165,000, payable to the two women in his family. That amount would be about $500,000 in today's money. Investigators started to wonder whether DJ could have been involved, not committing the murder herself, but perhaps hiring someone to kill her husband. First of all, she was tied up, but totally unharmed. Second, the intruder seemed to have gotten away with no spoils. Why did he riddle Roger with bullets without getting any money? Third, DJ knew about Roger's affair. Perhaps she had even found out that it was not over. Maybe she wanted revenge. Roger's brother Daryl told the investigators that his first thought was that DJ could have been involved in Roger's killing as payback for the affair. He said she wasn't as frail as she led people to believe. In fact, she was a savvy businesswoman who controlled all of her and Roger's personal money, and also that she, quote, went off the rails a little bit after Troy's death. It made her hardened, Daryl said. In January 1986, both Tammy and DJ were asked to take polygraph exams. Both agreed. DJ's polygraph was conducted on January 4th by 18th Judicial District Attorney's Office Senior Investigator Drew Grant. At the conclusion of the test, it was Investigator Grant's opinion that DJ was truthful in her polygraph exam and that she had no involvement with the death of her husband. DJ had her mental health struggles, having, as Tammy put it, fallen to pieces after Troy died, but the only person she posed a danger to was herself.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Meaningful Beauty, the famed skincare brand created by iconic supermodel Cindy Crawford. It's her secret to absolutely gorgeous skin. Meaningful Beauty makes powerful and effective skincare simple, and it's loved by millions of women. It's formulated for all ages and all skin tones and types, and it's designed to work as a complete skincare system, leaving your skin feeling soft, smooth, and nourished. I recommend starting with Cindy's full regimen, which contains all 5 of her best-selling products, including the amazing youth-activating melon serum. This next generation serum has the power of melon leaf stem cell technology. It's melon leaf stem cells encapsulated for freshness and released onto the skin to support a visible reduction in the appearance of wrinkles. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews, why not give it a try? Subscribe today and you can get the amazing Meaningful Beauty system for just $49.95. That includes our introductory 5-piece system, free gifts, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. All of that available at meaningfulbeauty.com.
With a detailed agent directory you won't find anywhere else, Homes.com is the only place to find the in-depth info home shoppers want. Very in-depth info. Looking for a listing agent's contact info? We've got it. The agent with the most sales in your price range? Easy. Specialized agents with all the up-to-date info on your dream neighborhood? We'll know them. A Pisces who enjoys long walks on the beach? You've got other sites for that.
Homes.com. We've done your homework.
Running a business online? Look legit and own your own brand with professional tools from GoDaddy. Instantly build trust with your customers and boost your credibility with an email that matches your domain, so people know you mean business. There's never been a better time. Just go to GoDaddy.com/GD now and choose from a wide variety of popular domains to find one that's right for you. Pair that with a professional email that works for all your business needs, from daily communications to email marketing and everything in between. That's a little price for a lot of credibility. For a limited time, get a domain and matching professional email for just 99 cents a month for 1 year. Go to GoDaddy.com/GD now and look legit with GoDaddy. That's GoDaddy.com/GD now. Again, GoDaddy.com/GD now. There's never been a better time to choose the domain and email that's right for you. New customer purchases only. Products auto-renew separately. See terms on site. GoDaddy.com/GD now.
There were several other investigative avenues that were of interest to the investigators. One involved some suspicious financial moves made by Roger. Roger had been actively trying to sell his company for more than a year. The investigators learned from Roger's partners and potential buyers for his company that Cecil Dean was not doing as well as it should have been, and Roger was stressed about it. But in looking at the books of the company, the accountant noted that Roger had squirreled away about $32,000 of company money over the past year. He had put the funds in a private account accessible by him. DJ said she knew nothing about this, and there was no indication of a gambling problem, drug addiction, or him paying that money to his mistress. What did he need the money for? Was he putting money aside, hoping to keep it from DJ in the event of a divorce? Was he being blackmailed, perhaps by the man who had killed him? Even more diabolical, was there a possibility that Roger had staged the robbery in a plan to give the, quote, robber $30,000 and secretly planned to split it with him? So many questions. In another twist, detectives were surprised to learn that Roger had been in regular contact with the Denver, Colorado police. He wasn't reporting anything personal, but had become something of a source on a major prostitution operation that had been operating out of a building Roger owned. In some articles, he's even referred to as a police informant. According to a report by investigator Dale Rowe, quote, on August 22, 1984, Detective Watts with the Denver PD and 18th Judicial District Attorney's Office investigator Bob Sexton contacted Roger about an investigation involving prostitution at 130 West Alameda. Roger had no knowledge what was occurring at the property until forwarded by the police, end quote. It turned out that Roger's tenants were basically running a brothel out of the property, and Roger ended up evicting the tenants after working with the police to gather information on the operation. Now that Roger had been killed, police wondered whether someone wanted to get back at Roger for ruining their business and decided to rob him. The police report says DJ had no knowledge if any problems resulted from this action, and to her knowledge, no threats were made, end quote. And in yet another angle, investigators made a connection that several members of Roger's extended family had been arrested for involvement in organized crime. There was no evidence that Roger had anything to do with this, and everyone who knew him swore up and down that he was as honest as they come. But it was an intriguing tidbit, especially in light of the hidden corporate funds and an angle that needed to be pursued. Let's talk about some specific suspects. Police did not believe that Roger's mistress Linda had killed him. They knew that DJ had interacted with a male suspect, and witnesses had seen a man running from the scene. But Linda had an adult son named Robert O., who definitely piqued the interest of the investigators. They wondered whether Linda and Robert might have colluded to rob Roger, whom, Linda told investigators, was worth a couple of million. Or Robert might have acted alone, angry about Roger's affair with his mother and seeing Roger as a wealthy robbery target. A few witnesses reported that Robert had been trying to borrow money from Roger. A receptionist at Roger's company named Joe C. had reported that someone named Bobby had been repeatedly calling Roger in the 3 weeks prior to the murder. Roger would always take the calls, but would go into his office and slam the door and would emerge angry. Investigator Rowe interviewed Robert O. on November 22nd. He admitted that he knew his mother was seeing a married man and that he'd been to Roger's home once for a party he attended with his mom. He could tell that the Deans had money from their house and the party. Robert admitted that he was unemployed at the time of the murder after being fired from his job. He claimed that Roger seeing his mother didn't bother him, but Investigator Rowe noticed a change in his demeanor that tended to indicate it actually did bother him, and when pressed, Robert admitted that he was concerned about his mom dating her married boss. However, he claimed to respect Roger and found him to be intelligent and nice, and his mother had told him that Roger planned to marry her. Robert did not have an alibi. He was home alone asleep on the morning of November 21st. His mom called him crying after hearing the news, and he went and picked her up. When he did, she told him she knew that DJ had hired someone to kill Roger. There was someone else who suspected Robert of possibly killing Roger. DJ. According to Dean family friend Greg L., DJ had named Robert as someone who should be looked at. Robert agreed to take a polygraph, and he passed. Linda was also requested to take a polygraph exam and agreed to do so on January 30th, 1986. Investigator Grant concluded after Linda's exam that she was truthful and she had no involvement in Roger's death. She continued to maintain that DJ was the person responsible for Roger's murder. She told everyone who would listen that Roger was worth more to DJ dead than alive. According to media reporting on this case, Linda and her son suspiciously split town shortly after the murder. That was not true. They did move to Phoenix in February 1986 after Linda got a new job there, but she was in touch with the investigators and kept them fully apprised of her new address and contact info. She and her son would be back in the investigators' spotlight later. By the end of 1986, the case was pretty much relegated to the investigators checking tips that came in about similar crimes. One suspect that came to their attention was a Stephen Louis Ferrer. He was a subject of a teletype from the Oregon State Police, which maintained that during a homicide investigation, it came out that Ferrer might have committed a double homicide in Colorado, in which he killed an older couple. His MO was residential burglaries in homes occupied by elderly people. He carried a weapon and brought along materials to tie up his victims. His interests were money, jewelry, and coins. In Colorado, he was suspected of a murder in which he had been in the midst of committing a residential burglary, and the female victim came home and he killed her. He had been found wearing a ski mask. Detectives requested a copy of Ferrer's finger and palm prints. He had an extensive record, but he could not be linked to Roger's killing in any way. A little closer to home was a residential robbery that occurred in Fort Collins on April 24, 1986. Two suspects, Richard Dale Hickey and Jeremiah Cushion, both black males, forced their way inside a residence at gunpoint, grabbed some clothesline, and tied up a husband and wife. The wife was laid on her bed in the upstairs bedroom, and the husband was tied to a chair downstairs. Hickey then demanded money from the male victim, asking how much was in his bank account. Hickey actually took the male victim from the house, making him drive to two banks, telling him that his accomplice was home watching the house and his wife all the while. The victim went into the bank and obtained the money, and Hickey then forced the victim to drive to Boulder, Colorado, where he got out and allowed the victim to drive away. The victim drove to Longmont, where he contacted police. Hickey was arrested, and in his possession was a .357 caliber revolver that investigator Rowe requested to be tested against the recovered bullets in the Roger Dean case. Both of these suspects had records for burglary, theft, and gun charges. It turned out that Cushion had been in custody on the date of the Roger Dean murder, but Hickey was unaccounted for. Fingerprints were collected for the two, and a photo lineup prepared using photos of Hickey. The FBI ballistics lab report, dated October 1986, showed that the bullets collected from Roger's person had not been fired from the gun collected from Hickey and Cushion. The case was eerily similar, but totally unrelated. Another case looked at closely by Douglas County investigators had occurred in September 1985, just 2 months before Roger's murder, in Aurora, Colorado. In that case, the victim, 44-year-old Thomas White, was shot to death in his East Marina Drive home by a burglar he surprised when he came home unexpectedly. What was intriguing was, White was in the same food brokerage business as Roger, and they knew each other. Whether they were both the target of some elaborate armed robbery plot enacted by a food wholesale business insider had to be investigated. Police eventually got comfortable that the two cases were unrelated, just one of those coincidences that supposedly don't exist in true crime. Douglas County authorities arranged for the perplexing Dean slaying to be featured on Crime Stoppers. It received a lot of media attention as well. But all the tips called in and leads pursued involved a ton of work that amounted to the police spinning their wheels. Their initial feelings that Roger was targeted by someone who knew him or knew of him seemed likely. The problem was the police couldn't figure out who that person was. An article in the Douglas County News Press 6 months after the murder called the Dean case still a mystery. Douglas County Sheriff's Captain Mike Acree said, quote, "There are several theories. We're looking at a residential burglary or robbery or a hit with the burglary-robbery just a ruse," end quote. This is the end of Part 1 of the Roger Dean case. Part 2 is available right now.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.